I'm Phil Borofsky. I'm from Florida, South Florida area. Moved around a little bit over the last couple of years, but right now I live in Arizona, Tucson, Arizona. So freelancing full time from here. Little switch up from the East Coast, but I'll be heading back to the East Coast probably around August time this year. So yeah, looking forward to kind of getting back over to like that weather and that scenery a little bit.
You want to tell me a bit more about how you got started with freelancing and why you did it, a bit of what you were doing before freelancing and your transition into that? Like, how long have you been at all this?
Yeah, so I'll kind of start like honestly from the beginning. So when I was in college, I did construction with my dad over the summer just to kind of pay for school. While I was doing that, I met a top 500 seller on Amazon. So that was like the floodgate opening to me being introduced to Amazon. Stopped doing construction, worked for him, learned the in and outs of just e-com. This was, 2016, 2017. So Amazon's still big then, but like the whole private label of what it is now with third-party sellers, it was kind of just starting. So stopped the construction, went over full-time Amazon working for him while I was kind of at school. Graduated from college and then did not do Amazon right away. Actually got a corporate 500 job, Fortune 500 job, went right to work right after. In hindsight, definitely should have just like taken the leap then, but was a little nervous at the time. Didn't really know exactly what, Amazon would provide or the freelancing. So did the corporate job for about 3 years. Still did a little freelancing on the side with the Amazon stuff. And then 2020, so after 3 years of the corporate job, I eventually made the leap of faith and jumped over to freelance full time. So that's kind of like the outline of how it all went. But for freelancing itself, honestly, it kind of fell into my lap a little bit because when I first started on Amazon, I sold products. I was selling pickle juice and selling products on Amazon. And that was kind of what I was doing when I worked the corporate.
Wait, you were selling pickle juice.
Yeah, that was my main product when I started on Amazon.
Was it online arbitrage or you were doing this with private label? Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, this was private label. So I went to school, made a good connection with one of my friends there. His family owned like a pickle juice supply company. Basically, they branded it up. I helped them bring it over to Amazon and we sold on Amazon for probably like 2 to 3 years. As you can imagine, the pickle juice market on Amazon sounds tough and it was tough, but I learned a lot while I was there. It definitely helped me understand the clients that I now service. So in hindsight, it was the best blessing in disguise. Like I know all of their pain points now because I lived it. I had to do the taxes myself. I did all of that. So it was a blessing, but it was definitely that's how I started with it. And then after that whole enlightenment, after I got to the end of the journey of the pickle juice, I realized that all the issues I had was supply chain, production. So then I was like, why not just cut all of that out and do the part that I'm actually good at, which is just servicing the Amazon side. When we had inventory, when we had no supply chain issues, we sold all the time. I learned the PPC, I learned the marketing on Amazon. I became really good at it. So that was kind of how it fell into my lap, where I then just transitioned away from selling to just get away from supply chain issues, upfront costs, and like work on the service side of things. So that was kind of how the freelancing for me was essentially born into it.
So you started this whole thing by being connected with someone that's a top seller on Amazon at the start. And then you were polishing up your skills or finding skills and getting better at skills that are related to growing an Amazon FBA brand, so a private label business. And then from there, you realize that you're more in love with the service side of things versus all the things that come with e-commerce. Do you still have an e-com brand on Amazon or are you just doing the service side?
Service side only. So I did have a couple other products that I did sell and go out from there, but nothing that I still sell from there, all service side.
And if you could go back and let's say you decided to just keep grinding it out with the pickle juice or whatever that it's making me laugh. That's so niche. If you had to go back and you weren't doing the freelancing and let's say that you enjoyed building a brand and selling a product and all that, and you wanted to make that work, what are a couple things or just even one thing that you would have done differently?
I probably would have like built the relationships with the suppliers a little bit more. I took a lot of them for granted with just like, I knew people who knew people, but it didn't really work that way. And then, when constraints came in during the supply chain side of things, it was tough not having that relationship to be prioritized when, that one place might be servicing out 10 other, products or brands. So it's just kind of like the relationship side of things from there. More on the e-com side though, I would say I probably would have just like gone more all in with the marketing earlier. I think I kind of like tried to go really slow, which again, not everyone has an unlimited budget. I obviously didn't when I was doing it either, but sometimes I think I've learned where like if you want to see if it works, it's better to just go see if it works. And then if it doesn't, then just be done with it and then go back to the drawing board, where sometimes I would do a plan for 6 months that in reality probably could have done in 2 months if I really just spent all the money then. So I think speeding up the learning process, because on ecom, things change every day. Although there are certain tactics that work and strategies that work, when it comes to marketing, you can come up with something new right now sitting in your, in your room, and it could be the next viral video that goes out. So that's where I say more just get it out there, test it. If it doesn't work, move on.
When you say marketing, do you mean organic or paid ads?
So I would say for the ecom side, for me in particular on Amazon, I do a lot of the paid ads. Although the paid ads will lead to the organic sales on Amazon, it's a little different than like a marketer who's on Facebook or Instagram, where like you're creating a video that's maybe getting out in front of somebody. The Amazon, a little bit more similar to Google. So it's going to be, going after keywords, stuff like that. So a little bit more in particular to the paid side, I would say I would have just got more aggressive with that and then seen if the organic sales would have came in from all that paid search.
Man, there's so many things just on the e-com side. And it's bringing me back because I grew an Amazon business as well with a partner of mine in Montreal for 4 years.
What'd you guys sell, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, we just dissolved the corporation, so we're not doing it anymore, so it's all good. Portable fitness equipment, core sliders, resistance bands. But although a lot of people say that they are going to market premium resistance bands, like we spent like 6 months coming up with premium quality, so you could still go on there and see that Amazon's still selling our stuff that we like burnt the inventory, but they're still selling it. You know how it goes. Yeah. But it would cost more for us with the Amazon fees and PPC and everything else to keep it going. And we fell out of love with it over the years. And there's a lot of stuff that we would have done differently as well, like building the community a bit harder, going harder on the organic marketing, because if you have the right community, you could sell anything. But then given the product a thing, like you were selling pickle juice, like that's pretty niche. But I don't know what the competition is, so I can't really get into it or like be a wannabe guru for pickle juice because I have no clue. I just know apparently because my girlfriend that it's a cure for hangovers. Our product was super easy to replicate. When the pandemic hit, we sold out super quick, and that's good for one reason and then really bad for another for, inventory, supply chain, all that. And then we got completely destroyed by people that had deeper pockets and that just copied the product, and we could have survived and made it work just like anything else. But at that point, I was already more in love with the service side as well. And that's why I went on to more of the freelance and agency side of things. But yeah, just early with you on the e-commerce side, I completely get why you transferred to service. They both work, but I'm with you on how you feel about the whole focusing on a skill and offering the skill to those people. And then eventually when you're making like more like 7 figures plus, then you could get back in there and you already got your feet wet with e-com. So you're going to have a much smoother journey than you would have if you didn't have that background. So that's great. Let me check actually.
And I agree. I agree like really with what you just said about like the organic stuff. Like that would definitely have been number 2. I wish I would have built the community up more, because as you get more, even just now, you can see it modern day. There's so many brands out there, but the community is really what keeps the brand going. So that was what was tough. Even if the paid stuff did work out, I didn't have an email list to blow up afterwards or a bunch of followers on Instagram. So like you said, like you learn that like building the brand there's so many, branches from the tree that have to grow out there, and Amazon is just one of them, or whatever service it is for them. So that's where I see some of these brands that are already established and out there and they've built the community. Now, like on the service side of things, we can kind of come in and just play our key role for what they're looking for. Yeah,
exactly. And like if we go on the extreme side of community building, take Logan Paul, for example. He built a huge community over the years. And now him and his partner are selling like, what's it called? Prime, which actually is direct competition with Gatorade, which is absolutely huge. That's the power of community building. You could do it in much tighter niches. You don't need such a huge audience or like to promote your stuff to like 15-year-old kids or like younger crowds. Like there's opportunity for growth for everyone. So if you could have built your brand from the start, like let's say you're starting out after college, you go right into this First, so a two-part question. How much would you have been comfortable with starting out to start? What was your situation? Like, were you living with your parents? Were you living alone? And then what platform would you have built on organically to start? Whether this could be e-com, this could be freelancing. Either way, personal branding super powerful. So I'd like to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, I'll answer more like on the freelancing side of things. Because honestly, if I could have gone back, I never would have taken the corporate job to begin with. So let's say right out of school. I mean, I went to school in Gainesville, Florida, a little bit away from home. So I guess afterwards, I probably would have either moved back home or gotten roommates somewhere afterwards. So that would have been the plan. But I probably would have just jumped in right there and like built a personal website, honestly, for like the Amazon services that I already knew how to do. In hindsight, this is easy to say. I probably still would have Upwork, you know what I mean? For me, it works really well for Amazon. The leads being very warm. I tried out a bunch of other ones to start. Just for my particular industry, I just liked Upwork. I thought it was the best one. So probably would have just started.
If you had to compare a few other marketplaces, why would someone go for Upwork versus another platform in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a good question. For me, I think that Upwork is better for digital marketing jobs and maybe, you know, I don't want to say they're more like a custom job in a sense where it's cookie cutter in a sense where like if you run Instagram ads, you know how to run Instagram ads, but it takes a lot more brand and strategy building, which means you probably need to have more conversations with the clients. I saw that happen a lot more on Upwork, whereas like Fiverr or some of these other ones, rarely do they even want to jump on the call. They never really wanted to. So they were just trying to like book the job and then like submit links to me with what they wanted. And then like I was supposed to take it from there. But on the digital marketing side, it's sometimes hard to do that without like getting to know the person and their goals with their brand and stuff like that. So I just like Upwork because I think there are some higher end clients on there. And I think the race to the bottom that people always talk about doesn't exist as much over there if you know how to like work the platform the right way.
Tell me about that. How would someone work the platform the right way?
Yeah, so a couple tips I always give is like just being honest in the beginning. Like when I first started, I would just write in my proposal that I was new to Upwork, but I had 8 years or 5 years of experience on Amazon selling stuff. So I think people forget sometimes as much as it is like, you know, you want to have the reviews and the profile to look really nice. People are also just hiring a person. They want to feel emotionally connected, relatable, things like that. So by just being honest, you know, they're like, okay, you know what? He's new to Upwork. He might be good. I was competitively priced. I wasn't $5 an hour, but I wasn't with 0 jobs, $60 an hour. You know, I was started at like 15, $20 an hour. It was like right around like, you know, probably like the middle to low end of where freelancers in my niche were pricing. So I definitely did a lot of research into the existing freelancers on the platform already.
Can you tell me about that research? Because I know a lot of people probably watching this want to get on or are on and they're really struggling and they're saying the things that you and me both hear every single day. And it's very similar to Amazon where like it's not a race to the bottom. It's just like you need to position yourself a certain way and it is hard work. And if you treat yourself as a commodity, that's what you'll get. And Upwork, actually this brings me to want to ask like how crucial has been the nature of Upwork and how it works and it being normal to get on calls with clients or prospects. How helpful has been getting on calls versus like on Fiverr where most people don't get on calls?
Honestly, I can't even imagine doing it any other way. Like if someone doesn't want to get on a phone call with me to start the project, probably not taking it anymore, to be honest. And I've just learned in my niche, it's different. It's digital marketing. There's expectations that have to be like set because we're spending money on ads that are supposed to return a certain amount. Now, again, if you're doing a job that's maybe like ghostwriting, it might be easier to just get all the info you need and go do the job without having to connect. So, you know, for me, I would say it's crucial. Like it's taught me why not to use other platforms or like how to approach what we'll call like the kickoff calls, I guess, or when you start a relationship with clients. And in my industry, in marketing, you know, I'm usually working with people for 30 to 90 days. So to not get on a phone call to start the conversation, it's tough to do it that way. I learned my lessons on some of the other platforms. The jobs didn't really turn out well. I got bad reviews.
Yeah.
Partly because of maybe what I did, but also just because I think expectations weren't aligned. And that's a big thing in the freelancing world, in my opinion. So that's why I just stick with Upwork mostly now for that, because honestly, everyone's pretty open to getting on a job or on a phone call before they hire out.
And if they don't, it's probably a red flag.
That's a red flag to me. And again, it depends on, I would say it's a red flag depending on what phase of your freelancing career you're in, because even I make posts about it and I point out red flags of clients. And they're red flags that personally I wouldn't touch now. Now, if you were to talk to Phil, first year freelancer, I probably still would have taken that job and found a way to make it work. You know what I mean? It's, you kind of have to pick your battles and know where you are in your own life cycle of freelancing to know, like, do I have the quote unquote freedom to say no to this job? Or are you kind of in the beginning and you're like, I can do it. It might be a little tough, but let me like work through the wrinkles a little bit. Because that happens. I feel like every freelancer goes through those jobs in the beginning. So can't shy away from it.
Even a few years in, like there's so many variables that you can't control. But yeah, over time, you treat it more as a business. You have processes, maybe even have a team to subcontract stuff to. So as long as you keep putting in the work, it improves. With pricing, I asked you another question instead of that question, but I want to go back to the pricing. What made you, whatever amount it was when you first started, it was an amount that made you feel like it was a fair amount, that you wouldn't look cheap, but you also would be, it would be a rate that's worth it for you. If someone's just getting on the platform or is not charging what they know they're worth, they already have a portfolio, they have results, they're just not on the platform. So they don't have as much Upwork social proof. What's your step-by-step, if you have one, for someone that would want to price their profile rate?
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, people reach out about that a lot where they're like, I'm a little bit more established. The sad, honest truth answer is you got to play the game as if you were new on Upwork. Just because even though you're new and you can be honest about it, I would still, if you know you're worth 100, I would still just play the game, go do the job for 25, rush it, get the experience. And then after 5 jobs, you can just raise your rate back up. So for me, I honestly tell people to not, let's use an example. If you're at $100 an hour on Fiverr and you're now just starting on Upwork, you're not $100 an hour. And it's just unfortunate. It's like the sad truth that people don't want to hear. But if you're bringing them to your own landing page on your own website, sure, you're worth $100 an hour. But now when you're next to 10 other freelancers who are top rated plus and, up and coming or whatever, rising star badge, whatever it may be, you just have to be realistic and put yourself into their point of view. So unless the portfolio of work is crazy, which on Upwork, they have to scroll through so much to get to that, that's where I say price competitively in the beginning. So the step-by-step for me is don't go to the bottom. I usually go $20 higher than the bottom. And I say 20 because every category you'll see, there's going to be a lot of people at $5 or $10 an hour, which just it's not sustainable. So that $20 to $25 range, I don't think anyone's going to be too worrisome of paying on Upwork too much, as long as you know your category. After you land probably 5 jobs, I would start the staircase method is what I call it. And just every
I like that. Yeah.
Up $5 an hour, up $10 an hour, something like that. Till it's all relative to your niche. If the top rated 1% plus in your category is only charging $65 an hour, and they're all charging $65 an hour, and you're going to go higher than that, there's just got to be good reasoning for it. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's kind of playing the game a little bit on there. But again, when I say to other freelancers, I say, just look at Upwork as one revenue stream though. If you can
to
your website and at $100 an hour, then do it at $100 an hour. But on Upwork, it's $15 an hour. It won't always be that way though. And that's the way I kind of.
So let me give you a situation. Let's say you're getting on there and you need to make one decision or another, like black and white. Let's say the cheapest Amazon PPC freelancer on there is $10 an hour versus the most expensive is $250. Nah, that's crazy. Let's say $150 an hour. If you had to pick one or the other, you're getting started on there, but you're already a vet. You've got awesome results. You've got a website, a landing page, testimonials. Would you be more inclined to starting with the most expensive or the less expensive if there was no middle?
If there was no middle, I'd be going on the less expensive, to be honest with you.
Okay. Why was that?
I know it quote unquote might devalue what you do, but if you're a vet, you should also be able to vet clients a little bit better. So here's the caveat to this. Because if you're a vet, you should be able to read the job postings on Upwork and know if you're going to be able to complete the job with minimal issues. So if you're going to come over, even if you're pricing it down at the bottom, you don't have to say yes to everybody. So apply to the jobs that you know for sure you're going to crush and just get a 5-star review on. And it might only take you 3 hours at $15, but whatever, you did it. You got the review. That person's going to be like, geez, for $15, this is probably worth a lot more, and they know they got it for a steal. So kind of a win-win. You still build the relationship, but I just think it's hard to convince somebody when you're at the high price point when there's no review on the profile.
What was so you started at, let's say you started at 20 an hour, 15, 20 an hour, or whatever you said, from 15 to 20 an hour using the staircase method that you mentioned earlier. And I love that name, by the way. You said after 5 jobs, but from the rate you were at to the rate that you're currently at, how many bumps did it take? And if you're comfortable with sharing the different numbers, like 15 to 20, staircase, what's the next? Like, did you have any really big bumps once you had the social proof? And how much did that affect the amount of leads that were coming in on your profile?
Yeah, so it definitely was a mixture of like realizing how much demand was coming in for the industry, how many invites I was getting. For where I started at $20 an hour. Right now, 3 years in, it's at $100 an hour on Upwork. To get to there, I've personally taken 3 staircases. So I don't remember the exact amount. Let's just call it 5 to 10. When I did the first 5 to 10 jobs, I bumped up to $35 an hour. That was my first staircase. After 35, I did another, I let it go a little bit longer. I think I did 20 jobs I completed about my total number was at 40 now. And then I bumped it up to $60 an hour. After I did that, my next 25 jobs were all really, really high ticket. If you were to scroll through my profile, you'll see like you said, the social proof. I got better at what I was doing on the platform. The jobs I were getting were 4 digits instead of 3. So the social proof was there. So I made the jump from 60 right to 100, to be honest. Not that I'd maybe recommend that to everybody, but I also base it off the fact that, okay, I had so many monthly clients per month. In reality, one person can only take on so many more hours or so many more brands. So I figured at that rate, if I am going to take on anybody else, I know what the value is. It kind of brought me up to the $100 range. There are people in this space though on Upwork for my category that are higher than me still. So I'm still not at the highest right now. There are people at 150 to 200 range.
Well, okay. So from the 20 to the 100, how many years was that? Or how many months? How long was that?
Yeah. So I'd say total, it was probably 2.5. I'd say the last year, I've basically been at the $100 mark range. So the first 2 years of the freelancing journey on Upwork, we'll say, is when I did the staircase. Again, it'll depend on how quickly you close jobs. If you can close 10 jobs a month, maybe you build enough social proof to raise it up a little bit. I think looking back for me, it was probably every 4 months, I was able to make some sort of a little staircase or right around there, depending on the jobs. But depends on the nature of your contracts and how long jobs take you in your niche.
Speaking of the nature of your contracts, are you more inclined to work with people hourly or fixed rate?
Yeah, so when I first started, it was more on the hourly side. I would just kind of do the jobs, record my screen, bill out by hour, kind of go from there. 3 years in, most of my jobs now are just monthly contracts, like retainers that are paid out that way. It has a scope of work that's included in that, but don't really take any hourly jobs anymore. I'm sure once you get to a certain part of again, that phase of your life cycle of freelancing to a certain level, it's okay if you want to speak out in terms of hourly rate, but that's when you're going to probably start to get to a really high hourly rate because you're also paying for the value of what that freelancer knows. Yeah, I think it's a little mixture of both.
How's your daily life and just your mindset and you getting up to show up and go work? How are you feeling now with mostly retainers getting higher pay versus where you were at the start?
Yeah, I mean, mentally great, still super excited 3 years in, not just saying you wake up super excited every single day. It's a feeling that unless you're on the other side, every freelancer knows this exact feeling. You can't put it into words, but the grass is just green. I never had the feeling when I worked a corporate job, just never did. So super there. I would say, it's changed over the 3 years. When I first started, 12-hour days, quote unquote, maybe because I had to kind of build up where the brand is. Now if I work a 12-hour day, it's still because I want to, but might be working on a few different avenues of the business that never even existed before when I was first starting. So I would say the workload always changes, but the balance is, I think that's the biggest, key for all freelancers, is just finding that balance. But for me, it's just 3 years in and kind of having like where I'm not like tired yet, or I don't feel like the worrisome of it, is because I really treat it as days of the week. If I need to do some work on Saturday or Sunday, then I do some work on Saturday or Sunday. So it's kind of like escaping the parameters of the natural week and just realizing that like work is life, life is work. You're just kind of one person flowing in whatever you're doing. So the workload's changed for sure. Definitely have worked the 12-hour days. Now, could maybe get by a little bit less on the time from there, but the retainers has been much better. To kind of go back to the beginning of the question, I like the retainer method just a little bit better. It works personally for me and for my industry and digital marketing. So I've kind of moved all of my contracts to retainers only.
And at this point, you're at $100 an hour, but you're focused on retainers. So you just do the math, whatever makes sense. And honestly, like between me and you could agree or disagree. I'd like to hear your thoughts, actually. The hourly rate after a certain while, once you get the social proof, is more like a placeholder of like, I'm this level of freelancer more than anything else.
100% agree. To be honest, even if I'm like pricing out someone in a monthly contract and like I break it down, I might be giving it to them at 75 an hour or 80 an hour, or maybe how it breaks down. But the thing is with monthly retainers, it's like 1 month I might work 10 hours, the next month it might be 9, but it's like, you're paying for the value. But 100% agree. I don't even when I do like the monthly contracts now and I put the price, I'm not putting in parentheses like how many hours that guarantees. It's more, hey, this is
less is more. Yeah.
Less is more. If 1 month you need me to work 30 hours because that's what it is, and like, we're in a partnership together to grow the brand, I'm here. If the next month it's only 5 hours, I'm here too, so it kind of, it's again, works for my niche. But yeah, I think it does become a placeholder at a certain point.
And at this point, you're at a point. This is a super exciting moment, actually. Like once you're a few years in and you get past you have more of an abundant mindset and realize that, it's hard, but if you do the right things, like you could charge what you're worth and kind of build your own routine. At this point in your freelance career, about 3 years in or whatever it is, what's your, like, are you seeing yourself more as an artist or an owner? And just to elaborate on that, some freelancers prefer, we'll take a copywriter, for example. They'll want to be writing for 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day, or even 4, and make a good amount of money, but that's what they want to do. They're not looking to scale. They're not looking to build a team, and both are okay, but that's more like artist. That's like, you love your craft. You want to do that every day. And it's work, but you love what you do. And if you love what you do, then great. Are you more that, like an artist with Amazon PPC, or you're more on the business owner side of things and you want to scale, have a team, maybe you have a team already, whatever you're comfortable sharing with that? What's the vision for Phil?
Yeah, I would say definitely the last year and a half, it shifted more to the like agency business owner type. Still love the craft of Amazon. It'll never go away. Anyone that I do bring on the team, they're fully trained on Amazon with like courses that I've put together, my YouTube trainings, everything like that. So I think it's a really good question. And I think as you transition, any freelancer transitions from like freelancer to like, we'll call it agency owner, you still always have to have the craft, because the craft is what's like supplying the wheelhouse to continue to function and run. So that'll never go away, but definitely more on the business side of things now. I do have a team. I have a couple, I call them freelancers too. We're all freelancers. They're freelancers on my team. I don't like to use the word employees. Without them, my business wouldn't function. So I don't like the word at all. Probably coming.
Do you have them on retainers?
I do. So it didn't always start that way. It was more like blessed with the team that I have. They grew with me. So, when the business wasn't making as much as it was now, they made a little bit less. As we've grown, they've made more as time has gone on too. So very blessed.
The staircase strategy. Yeah.
It comes into effect again. So they've grown with me. Now, again, that the business is at a certain point, they are on retainer. There is opportunities for them to, maybe, make a little bit extra with like some of the digital marketing or stuff like that. So try to keep that in place, but definitely shifting more to this side now. Like you said, like trying to figure out how to scale it, where creating the systems, getting the right people in place, where still at the end of the day, servicing Amazon clients. If you have a product on Amazon and you want to sell it, still there to do that, but kind of building it out so we can service more clients on a monthly basis.
Yeah, for sure. And for someone that's happy with their hourly rate and they're more business owner versus artist, what would be a good time for them to think about starting to subcontract and start to build a team? When do you think would be a good time to start considering it and still provide the same results, the same quality, and so on? Like, what steps did you take to get there?
Yeah, so it's a good question. It's definitely maybe a couple threefold parts, but I think the first and foremost thing before you like take on anyone else is like, one, making sure the business has the income for it if you're going to put them on retainer right away. For me, again, I'm biased because I did it, but I like the approach of finding somebody that is going to grow with you. Like if you only have so many hours to give them in the beginning, then they should only, you can only pay out so many hours. So I recommend doing it as early as possible on that note, because like as soon as you can afford it, bring it on, because you don't need them to be full-time. Bring them on for one job that you're doing and just give them the duties that you would envision doing for all of the jobs later on and just see if it works. It's kind of going back to what we said before, like test it. If it doesn't work, go back to the drawing board. But even if that person isn't your forever person, we're all on Upwork, we're all on Fiverr. Just go find somebody else, like hire another freelancer for the one job, see if you put the right systems in place, and then it can kind of go from there. But the second part of that question is systems. So before I ever hired anybody, it was writing out the SOPs all on Word or however, you do it for your business. And basically, like if I wasn't there, you can read this document from A to Z and you're going to be able to get the job done. It might not be perfect on the first go around, but it's there for you. So that was a big thing I did. I wrote a bunch of systems. For me personally, it was like how to do Amazon research, like keyword research, how to write listings, how to optimize marketing campaigns. So for everyone's business, it's going to be a little different, but when you bring someone on, you want to be able just to give them the systems or the work right away that they can just jump right into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you actually read my mind, because I was going to ask, were you doing this a bit randomly and getting on calls with them to shadow them, or did you have any systems and processes in place? And that's definitely key. Even if you get the right person for the job, if you don't have systems for it, it's not their fault. If they don't do a good job, it's your fault. And that's something that I learned also. And just like your business, just like your hourly rate, just like everything else, a process isn't just written and then forgotten about. It builds. Like the staircase strategy happens with the improvement over time. And the only way that you can improve is with experience and screwing up here and there. And yeah, you can use a bunch of filters and have an onboarding process to make sure you avoid a lot of it. But there are more moving parts once you have a team. You now having a team in place, what does your schedule look like with them? Like, do you have just check-in calls or like a bi-weekly thing, or is it just per project? Like, how is it looking at the moment?
Yeah, so with my team, we meet at least once a week every Monday morning just to like start the week, go over the outlook for the week. I use Rindle for like my like task management system. People use Slack, things like that. I'll go over just like the outlook, their like what's on their schedule for the week, and kind of go from there. People on the team who are heavily involved in the actual like PPC campaigns for Amazon, I meet with them actually every Friday as well. So meeting with them twice a week. Try not to do check-ins too much Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, really just WhatsApp or email back and forth. Don't want them to feel like it's micromanaged by any means. It's also a big thing when you're shifting from the freelancer to the business owner side. You just got to be okay with not being in control at all times. And I only say that because I have the worst control issues. So I've slowly learned how to let go of things where it's not that you do it your way for so long that you just, you see it being done that way. So it's just getting comfortable with them doing it as well, but about once or twice a week, we'll meet to go over those tasks. And then the start of every quarter, we'll go over like the company's goals and all of our brand's goals, all the achievements we had, and then kind of outlook the next quarter. So like that call for me is next Monday. We have that call.
That's awesome, man. Just to make sure I have enough time to ask you a few more questions. So you're more in the agency model or freelance agency, or you're subcontracting, you have a team. People call it different things. What's the goal for this year, for 2023? I know we're a few months in already. First quarter's gone, actually. It goes fast. What's the goal this year in terms of whether you want to share revenue goal, team goal, amount of clients goal, whatever goals you're comfortable with sharing?
Yeah, no, definitely. I would say overall for this year, a couple of goals. I definitely want to add a few more people to the team. So team wise, I definitely want to add like another, what we'll call Amazon PPC specialist who can essentially like help service out some more marketing to brands, things like that. Probably bring on another like Amazon logistics manager that handle like all the, like the case files, the back end, like all that stuff from there. So that's a really big goal, is just adding them on the team. Revenue wise and stuff, the goal for this year is to do probably around 400,000 as like the business, for everyone. So, there's a lot of expenses and stuff that goes into it, but would love to get it to that level and service 20 clients on a monthly basis would be the goal. I think that's enough to be able to properly manage, like we were just talking about, without like spreading myself or the team too thin and not like sacrificing any results. But right now we're at about 14 monthly clients. So trying to add about 6 more before the year ends, hopefully not losing any brands as well. So give or take, like trying to add 6 more in there.
Well, you're on your way. That's a solid goal. If someone was an Amazon PPC expert and wanted to be seen by someone who's subcontracting, such as yourself, what are things that you look at when you go through proposals of people that are hiring on the client side? So you're a client in this case. What are things that you look at and you're like, all right, I like this person because of this, that, versus archive, move on to the next?
Yeah. Number one thing I look at for sure in my space is recent portfolios. What a lot of people do in digital marketing is they make a really good case study, but it's from a couple of months ago. The thing is though, on Amazon in particular, it changes so quickly that when I then go look at that listing, it's not necessarily performing to say it was like the way it was when they made that. So that's a big thing that I look at just to see if they're up to date with the new tactics. And since I'm doing it every day, I can see and go look at what they're, doing on those pages. Honestly, it's honestly tough on this side to filter out without getting on the call for this stuff. But I would say anyone that like doesn't actually get into the proposal itself, I don't even read. And I mean that is like, if they're only talking about themselves or like what they've done, then I just disregard it. But like they have to show me that they read I'll write like detailed job postings. There needs to be something that you read it and understand. I don't do like, put this word as the first one, but I'll put so much detail in there that it's like, if it's really a copy and pasted template, it's like, I gave you so much info about the product already. You should be able to provide something back in detail. So I look for detailed proposals. I send out a bunch of proposals on Upwork. I also take a lot of time doing those. I try not to copy and paste and stuff like that. So filtering out through the templates is probably the easiest one to get rid of.
And going back on the freelance side, I think I saw somewhere in your content on Instagram that you post 1 high quality personalized proposals per day. What's your actual number? Is it 1 that you spend a lot of time on, or what's your daily average on that?
Yeah, so now it probably really is maybe 1 to 3 a day that I'm like, taking a lot of time, maybe even like sending over some like quote unquote free info for them, But again, 3 years in, I'm probably, most of my contracts or proposals are going more after the high ticket clients. So I don't mind spending a little bit more time on them. In the beginning, no joke, probably 10 to 12 proposals a day. I would say like if you're on Upwork and you're not where you want to be, or you want to continue to scale and there's that many jobs available, you should really be applying to every single one that fits your, like that you can handle. To me, it's a numbers game. So I get that, but also it's just a learning game. The more you send proposals and get answers, the more you're going to learn what worked for you versus not worked for you. So it's the whole quote. It's like, stop trying to time the market, just get in the market. Like you can't time it, you can just get in it. So it's like, I feel like that's like the best way. And in the beginning, I was just honestly looking back at it. In 2020, I think I sent, it's going to sound like a crazy number, but I think it was like 460 76 proposals or something like that, like as many as I could have sent for Amazon that year. I think last year on Upwork, I might have only sent out like maybe like 50 altogether for the 12 months. So it'll change throughout the life cycle. But again, if you're not at the revenue amount you want to be at, I'd be sending out 10 a day at least, conversion rate maybe only 10%. Yeah.
I think honestly, 10% if you're using the filters that make you happy and they're jobs that are paying enough. 10% is not bad.
No,
10%
not bad
is
at
actually
all.
great. 10% is
Yeah,
good.
that's what I think people don't realize that until they get into it. That 10% is actually a lot because there's jobs posted on, I'm using Upwork as an example, but there's freelance jobs posted all day. So like, again, if you're just playing a numbers game over a week span, you might get in front of 70 different people. So you'll close, enough jobs that the snowball effect will eventually take place.
Speaking of getting more in front of other people, what made you want to start creating content around freelancing? Speaking more about your personal brand.
Yeah, so the personal brand's definitely been the more of the focus now on things, or like what I'm, shifting more towards. And honestly, it's just being into the journey 3 years. And, there'll be a lot of people that, have similar takes on this as freelancers, but I did the corporate job for 3 years. I'm not going to sit here and trash all 9 to 5s, but I hated it. I think it's very easy to look around in society and just see that not everyone, but I'm going to say 90% of people who work those jobs are not truly happy with what they do every day. If they could do something else that would give them the same, if not more money, control, or freedom, they would probably do it. So I started this honestly just because want people to see it's actually possible. And I think when there's people like you and me, everyday people who are just starting, or that people know us, it's a little bit more relatable, and you see that like you guys just saw me a year ago. Like it's really just consistency and it's possible. So trying to just get other people to realize the benefits of freelancing, even if you keep the 9 to 5 or a job on the side, just adding a revenue stream for yourself or a passive revenue stream, from freelancing. It's, anyone can benefit from that, whether you're a freelancer or not. So yeah, just trying to open people's eyes a little bit that it's not as scary as everyone makes it out to be on this side of things, where it's not secure or the income's not there. It's 2023. The amount of opportunities out there, just even on Instagram, are crazy. So the ability to connect with people and network and, get jobs or meet potential clients, I think it's only going to hockey stick from here. So yeah, I just want people to jump into freelancing. Not that I ever think it'll be too late, but I think it's a unique time in history where like the wave is like really just starting to form, and like the 9 to 5s in 20 years will be obsolete in my opinion. So yeah, just trying to get people on board.
Yeah, true. I thought I was late in the game. You probably thought something similar when you started, just like when we started our Amazon brands. Amazon's dead, YouTube's dead, or things like that. But we're honestly, truly pioneers still, even though there are plenty of people before us that have way more experience, social proof, cash, and so on. Anyone that still gets in the game, I fully agree with you that it's only the start, and that this will be a normal thing in the future, and the 9 to 5 will be the exception. A lot of people in the world like being worker bees and just having their 9 to 5 and then going home, having dinner, playing sports, and having a schedule is great, and not having to stress about all the things that a business makes you stress about is also great. So, and there's going to be room for everyone, like whether it's freelancing, more flexible remote work. The whole point is to have a win-win where like, all right, as long as you get your job done and there's still a team culture and you like what you do, like you don't have to come into the office every day. And I think that's a shift that for us might be normal. We've been at it for half a decade, but for people currently who are just experiencing it, like it's just getting more normal. And pre-pandemic, it wasn't normal. And I thought it was crazy that I was getting to do this. And I'm always grateful. I see your pictures with your sunrise and sunsets and all that, and just you creating your own schedule. And me personally, to this day, I'm super grateful I get to do this, but I'm also excited for the rest of the world, that like the ones who take the opportunity, like you, like me, like other people like us, like the world is yours. Like just focus on a single skill that you enjoy and make something out of it. Whether you want to be an artist, business owner, do it part-time and have a remote job on top of that, it all works. There's no right or wrong, but I'm excited that we get to relate on the business owner side and that you're looking to build a big thing. Yeah, that was great. We're going to have to wrap it up. So I want to get to know, like, apart from, there's just one last question. Let's say Upwork didn't work, and let's say Upwork didn't exist. Where would you start? Where would you look for clients for your Amazon PPC PPC business? Like, what are other places that you would recommend people look at to get started? No marketplaces,
so
like social media or,
I would say like if we're just gonna take away all marketplaces, no like freelancer.com, no Upwork, no Fiverr, none of those existed. Probably personal website using Google Ads and then just social media. And like what you just said, it's picking your high value skill or whatever it is you want to do and just going all in on it. It's when people see that it's what you do every day, it's way more credible than, hey, I made one post a week about this. No one believes that like, you fully do Amazon PPC if you're only posting about it one time a week. So I'd probably go personal website. I think you can probably portray the information you want the best over there. And then, you can run ads pretty much from any social platform or Google to kind of get people over there.
Awesome,
and websites
man.
pretty these days are low cost. So pretty like cost-effective way to get started.
If someone has a limited budget, what would you recommend as a platform that's super easy to design a website or a landing page?
I've used Wix in the past, like pretty easy. There's new like AI websites out now that you can like literally just type in what you want the page to look like and it'll come up. Durable.co is a good one. After you make it, it'll help you link it to an actual domain site. You can choose it from there. So that's where I say there's a lot of free options, especially with the AI stuff now, where like the website's pretty easy just to get up and get out there. Where you'll probably need a little bit of budget is if you do want to push people with like paid ads for stuff like that. But again, if you build a community, like you mentioned before, on social media, link in bio, it's free for a little while. You might not get a ton of views, but over time, the snowball effect will eventually take place.
I think we relate on a lot of points, whether it's your lifestyle that I see in your stories on Instagram, your come up, how you started the whole corporate to freelancing transfer, even the staircase thing. Like my numbers are very similar. So it's really cool to see to hear about your story. If someone wants to reach out to you, they're looking to learn more about freelancing, Amazon PPC, maybe just getting to learn more about you and, just connect, what would be the best platform to reach out?
Yeah, right now I'd go Instagram, Freelance with Phil. You can DM me right on there. I'm on there every day. DM with some questions, any like things you guys need for anything related to freelance. You'll see I have a bunch of Upwork info on there, but just general freelance stuff too. So Instagram probably the best one right now. Same thing on Twitter, but more active on the gram for right now.
Awesome, man. What's one thing you'd like to share with whoever's watching, whether it's one person or 1,000? What's one thing that you'd like to share that we haven't covered?
Yeah, that we've kind of touched on it, but it's find an in-demand skill and just go all in. I think that's the biggest thing people reach out to me about when they're like, I see what you're doing freelancing. I see the potential of the income, but it's like, where do I start? To be honest, that's for you as the freelancer to figure out, but it's all around you. Just look at the world. There's in-demand skills all around. It's picking one and diving all in on it. And that doesn't mean quitting your job tomorrow. That means after you get home, get on YouTube and maybe research about it and start learning it and just, becoming obsessed with whatever that skill is. 3 years in, again, just wish I would have started sooner becoming obsessed with it. Because once you do that, you learn how to service it out, you learn how to package it, and then all the wheels start to connect. So I would just say pick the skill and dive in. Don't let people tell you about saturation. Like we've already mentioned, it's not there. It's okay, but just pick the skill and go learn it.
Go all in.
Yeah, exactly.